Good morning, children. The national movement 1935 onwards covers three chapters, namely Lesson 8, the Cripps mission and the Quit India movement. Lesson 9, Subhas Chandra Bose, Forward Bloc and the Indian National Army. Lesson 10, Independence and the Partition of India. As per the revised reduced syllabus, only a small topic is mentioned from the lessons. In this lecture, we will study all the topics from the said chapters one by one. The Quit India movement. On 7 December 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, an American naval base in the Hawaii Island. Japan's entry into the war on the side of Germany was a cause of great worry for Britain, USA and China. They got all the more worried by the rapidity with which Japan overran countries one after the other in Southeast Asia. The war thus had come to the very borders of India. The efficient defense of India needed the fullest cooperation of the people of the country. The British Prime Minister, Mr. Churchill, was still not showing any eagerness to reach any agreement with the Indian leaders. Then came the pressure of the President of USA. The result was that Sir Stafford Cripps, a member of the British War Cabinet, was sent to India to solve the Indian problem. Sir Cripps arrived at Delhi in March 1942 with a proposal known as the Cripps Mission of 1942. But the Congress and the Muslim League both rejected the proposal, which ultimately led to the passing of the Quit India Resolution. Reasons that led to the passing of Quit India Resolution. Failure of the Cripps mission. The rejection of the Cripps proposal by the Congress was due to the following reasons. 1. Cripps did not bring with him the promise of independence in the near future. Because the Constituent Assembly to frame India's constitution was to set up after the war. Second, Cripps proposed that any province or provinces which did not accept the new constitution could frame a constitution of their own. Such proposals could naturally divide India into a number of independent states. Third, the people of the princely states had not been given the right to elect their representatives to the proposed constitution-making body. Their representatives were to be selected by the rulers. Fourth, until the new constitution was to be framed, the government desired full participation of Indian leaders in Viceroy's Executive Council. The problem here was that the Viceroy was to retain full control over the matters like war and defense. And in times of war, defense covers almost the whole of administration. The Congress wanted a true national government with the Viceroy acting as a constitutional head and with all subjects including defense under the control of the government. The Muslim League rejected the proposal as the prospects of achieving Pakistan was bleak. It demanded a definite pronouncement in favor of partition. In such circumstances, the Congress could not remain inactive. It had to give a suitable reply to the British government, which called for the British to quit India. Japan posed a serious threat to India. The Congress was greatly disturbed by the developments in the Southeast Asia. Japanese bomber raided Shanghai and their armies overran Philippines and Malaya, now known as Malaysia. They occupied Burma, that is Myanmar, and then marched towards Assam. The war had thus come to the very border of India. Our great anxiety was, what should be done if India was attacked by Japan? And there was nothing that Indians could do to resist it. Had the Japanese army attacked, they could quickly occupy India without much opposition. This feeling of helplessness irritated many leaders, and in particular Jawaharlal Nehru, who advised people to resort to guerrilla warfare in the event of the Japanese invasion. Gandhi and the other leaders were now convinced that the situation called for complete independence, immediate and unconditional. Quit India Resolution. The Congress Working Committee met at Wardha in July 1942 and adopted a long resolution that came to be known as Quit India Resolution, which demanded the British rule in India must end immediately. On 8 August 1942, the All India Congress Committee at Mumbai passed the resolution, the Quit India Resolution. It was in this session that Gandhiji in his speech said, "We shall do or die. We shall either free India or die in the attempt." Significance of the Quit India movement. First, the 1942 movement was an important landmark in the India's struggle for freedom. Second, the movement was symbolic of a new confidence that people had attained. It warned the British that they were not wanted in India, and people aroused a spirit of total sacrifice. Third, there was nothing that could stop the Indians from attaining their freedom. Fourth, the Quit India movement strengthened the Congress Socialist Party because of its magnificent and historic role in the movement. Its leader, Jayaprakash Narayan, became almost a legendary figure. Fifth, in the history of British rule in India, no such revolt had occurred earlier. Subhas Chandra Bose, Forward Bloc, and the Indian National Army. In this chapter, children, we will study about the objectives of Forward Bloc, objectives of INA, that is Indian National Army, and contribution of Subhas Chandra Bose. Forward Bloc, 1939. Subhas Bose's re-election as Congress President against Gandhi's wishes, his socialist beliefs and his revolutionary ideas led to the formation of Forward Bloc in May 1939. Objectives of the Forward Bloc. The immediate objective of the Forward Bloc was the liberation of India with the support of workers, peasants, youths and all radical organizations. The establishment of a socialist society by the Forward Bloc after attaining independence, and the measures suggested by Subhas were as state planning for the reorganization of agriculture and industries on socialist lines, abolition of landlordism, that is zamindari system, social ownership and control of both production and distribution, making the right to work as a fundamental right of the citizens, providing workers several kinds of benefits, and a new monetary and credit system. Subhas believed that communism would not succeed in India, nor the Indians would agree to an anti-religious set of beliefs. Therefore, the objectives of the Forward Bloc speak freedom in the matter of religious worship, linguistic and cultural autonomy for all sections of the Indian community. Objectives of Indian National Army. To mobilize all INA's forces effectively to lead Indian people to regain their lost freedom. To prepare the Indian people inside and outside India for an armed struggle. To organize a provisional government of free India. To go on fighting till the last Britisher is either cast in prison or thrown out of the country. Contribution of Subhas Chandra Bose. Formation of the provisional government of free India. Struggle for India's freedom and victories won by INA. The defeat of Japan sealed the fate of INA. Significance of the struggle of INA and Subhas, the brave son of India. Children, please read these topics from the book which are mentioned on page 195 and 196 of the chapter. Chapter 10, Independence and the Partition of India. Children, in this chapter we will only study about the Mountbatten Plan and the Indian Independence Act 1947. The Mountbatten Plan. Lord Mountbatten assumed office as the Viceroy on 24th March 1947. He had been sent with the definite object of transferring power to India. Lord Mountbatten was convinced that India was to be partitioned. Transfer of power to Indians could only be on the basis of the partition of the country. Therefore, on 3rd June 1947, he announced his plan. The main clauses of the plan were as follows. 1. Partition of Bengal and Punjab was proposed provided that the legislative assemblies of the two provinces decided in favor of partition. 2. The existing Constituent Assembly would continue to work, but the constitution framed by it would not apply to Pakistan. The Legislative Assembly of Sindh was to take its own decision at a special meeting. The North-West Frontier Provinces was to be held on the basis of referendum to decide the future of the province. The District of Selsiat was to decide by referendum whether it would join East Bengal or remain in Assam. The princely states, the treaties with them would come to an end. They would be free to associate themselves with either of the dominions or to remain independent. The plan provided for the creation of a boundary commission to settle the boundaries of the two dominions in case partition was decided upon. It was for the two dominions to decide what relations they would have with the British Commonwealth and with each other. The plan ended with a declaration that the transfer of power would take place not in June 1948 but before the end of 1947. Why did the Congress accept the Mountbatten Plan, that is, the partition of India? There were various reasons for finally accepting the Mountbatten Plan, which may be summarized as: communal rights had taken serious turn as a result of the direct action of Muslim League. The Muslim League had joined the interim government to obstruct and not to cooperate. The only alternative to partition was a federation with a weak center. The leaders felt that the partition would rid the constitution of separate electorates and the other undemocratic procedures. The leaders also felt that further delay in the transfer of power could find India in the midst of civil war. The Indian Independence Act 1947. The clauses of the Act were as: 1. The Act provided for the creation of two independent dominions from 15th August 1947 to be known as India and Pakistan. 2. There would be a Governor General for each of the dominions who was to function as the constitutional head. 3. The constituent assemblies of the two dominions were to serve as their central legislatures. They were to act as sovereign bodies for the purpose of making the constitution as well as other laws for the dominions. 4. All powers and authorities exercisable by His Majesty in relation to the princely states were terminated. Thus, the princely states became independent. 5th, the office of the Secretary of State for India was to be abolished. 6th, the provision was made for the division of Indian Army and sharing of assets and liabilities between the two dominions, that is India and Pakistan. The provision was also made for safeguarding the interest of the existing officers appointed by the Secretary of State who would not make any such appointments in future. Thus, the Indian Independence Act was, as declared by Lord Samuel, as an event unique in history, a treaty of peace without a war. Recap. So children, in this video, we have read about Quit India movement, its causes, Quit India resolution adopted and passed, impact of the Quit India movement, Forward Bloc, its objectives, INA, its objectives, and contribution of Subhas Chandra Bose. We also read about Mountbatten Plan and its clauses and why Congress accepted the Mountbatten Plan, that is the partition of India. We also read about the clauses of the Indian Independence Act 1947. Thank you and stay blessed.